So we're going to see a break in the financial system, which leads to historic financial changes this year. And I hope people have listened. You can't stop what's coming. You can't stop what's coming. It's coming. The US dollar will be dethroned as the world reserve currency this year. I'm going to repeat that. Because of that covenant, the United States is soon to rise as the greatest nation in the world because of that covenant when God restores the covenant. So during end times, once it breaks that resistance point, we could literally see Bitcoin go to excessively high numbers into year end. As long as that final resistance point is breached and broken, I do believe it's going to break. So I'm not changing my tune where we're still looking for over 100, but there's a resistance point above 100,000. If that key number is broken, which is in the report, then we're literally can go to wild numbers later this year. The explosion of silver is going to lead to the collapse of the banking institutions.
Live from America's heartland, this is the Daily Truth Report with your host, Noah Christopher.
Welcome back to the Daily Truth Report. I am your host, Noah, and I've got our good friend Bo Polny is back on the show with us today. Bo, welcome back.
Thanks, Noah. Pleasure to be here. And yes, many things happening.
Yes, many things happening. We'll just set the stage briefly. I always like to say we're talking on June 17th today, 2024. I know so many people go back and look at these and save these. So today is June 17th, 2024. We're just coming up on the end of spring. We're going to talk about that in just a moment and the switch over to summer and what that means. We got some big things in store. Bitcoin sits right at 67,000, right at that ceiling where it's about ready to break through 70,000 and then watch out. Silver sits in between 30 and 32, same thing. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to spend a lot of time on gold and silver. We're going to talk about the US dollar, the petrodollar, and why that's important, and why that actually is no more. And then, of course, we'll talk a lot of crypto, Bitcoin, and everything else. So, Bo, let me just put your slides up on the screen. And I know you've got so much here. I'll take everybody to, let me take them to your, there we go. Let me take them to your QR code real quick. If you want to download these slides, there'll be a link below wherever you're watching this. Or you can just point your phone at this QR code on the screen right there. That'll give you a free download of these slides. There's a lot in here. We're going to get through as much of it as we can, but we won't be able to get to all of it. So if you want to get these, download them, save them to your computer, just grab the link below or scan that QR code that is up on the screen right now. And I think with that, Bo, everybody wants to hear from you. So what are we talking about today?
Actually, let's start with the link that we opened up earlier with regards to the Saudi-Russia petrodollar contract, because that really is the crux of what we need to stand up, why we're here today financially, what's going on with the world. And so let's do a little storyline, okay? So what you had was Kissinger signs a petrodollar contract with the Saudis on June 9th, 1974. If you go back 3 years, what happened was Nixon took us off the gold standard. So Nixon takes us off the gold standard on the 15th of August, 1971. If we run a Leviticus, when you read Leviticus, thou shalt consecrate the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout the land and to all of its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. So the 50-year mark, that cycle of time is really critical because it's a biblical calculation. We go 50 years from the day Nixon took us off the gold standard, 50 years to the exact day. That was the day that we abandoned Kabul. That was called the fall of Kabul. And that happened on the 15th of August, 2021. So 50 years from 71 to the exact day. Now, why I state that.
And everybody remembers that, Bo. That's that famous scene where the big giant airplane's taken off and we left our people behind and all that. That's what you're talking about.
Exactly. So we left billions of dollars of military hardware in Kabul, okay? Not millions, billions of dollars of military high-end hardware in Kabul. We abandoned U.S. citizens there. It was, this was under the Biden watch, okay? So this all happened. And then 9 days later, this is the article, and you and I have been speaking about this event, Noah, for 3 years now on our podcast, okay? None of this is made up. We have been speaking about this. You go back 2-3 years in our podcast. We have been talking about this event. And we were talking, this is going to lead to the collapse of the US dollar. So what happened was Saudi Arabia on the 24th of August, 2021, 9 days after Kabul fell, Saudi signed a military agreement with Russia. Now, why we wanted the viewers to understand the significance of this is because the petrodollar contract. So we, the United States, through Kissinger, signed a petrodollar contract on June 9th, 74. And so we were no longer attached to gold because of Nixon. 3 years later, Kissinger brings in the petrodollar contract with Saudis. And the military agreement that we had with Saudis is pretty simple. The contract was like this: we will provide military protection to Saudi Arabia, and in turn, Saudis agree to sell oil globally. They're going to sell oil globally in only ONLY, the US dollar, and its denominated and its treasury, US treasury bonds. Okay, so you had Saddam Hussein, you had Gaddafi try to sell oil in non-US denominated bonds, and look what happened to those countries. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so it's always been about the dollar, because the dollar is how they built Babylon. And this is what we stated in prior podcasts. So my question to the viewers is, why would Saudi Arabia, 9 days after Kabul fell, approach Russia to sign this military contract? I'm sure they approached Russia the next day, right? But on 9 days later, they post the article because the contract was signed. So why would Saudi Arabia need a military agreement and contract with Russia, a superpower, but not the superpower, the United States? Because remember, Saudis had a military agreement with the superpower, the United States. But after they realized their neighbors were just abandoned, again, their neighbors, Kabul, were abandoned by the United States, they're like, well, okay, we don't trust. Obviously, it's about trust, because everything in this world is about faith, confidence, and trust. So they don't trust the contract. They go approach Russia and they say, hey, we need a military agreement and contract with you. And so thus they go ahead, and now there's that military contract, Saudis and Russia.
So that's kind of that famous image that everybody remembers. That was right after Biden took office. Some people say it looks fake. I think it does look kind of fake, but you got this big giant plane going down. That's our last plane getting out of there, leaving a bunch of people behind, leaving troops behind, leaving equipment behind. And then you got this big giant plane with people on the runway trying to take off. Very bizarre. So very famous image. This is what Bo's talking about when we left there. And then when we leave there, there's absolutely no more confidence that we're going to stand by our allies. And then that leaves us to today. So that's what's on the screen there, Bo. That's why I got that up there.
Right. And whether the photo is a fake photo or not, the events are not fake. There's numerous photos of billions of dollars of hardware literally being abandoned in Kabul. So now the enemy, the other side, has billions of dollars of U.S. hardware because of this event. Because of this event, the Saudis no longer trusted the United States. Because of this event, the Saudis turn around and sign a military agreement with Russia. And so because of this event, leads us to present day. Why I reference this? Because now when you go to the slides, you're going to see something pretty wild happen. If you pull up page 5 on our slides, what you'll see is it's pretty wild. There's page 5 right there. And why I'm saying that is because I have been talking about this for a long time.
Well, Secondly, I wanted to say that you have been coming on this show for at least 3 years saying this was going to happen. You probably saw it right after that 2021, and that's when you started telling us. And we got so many comments back then. That's crazy talk. Who is this guy talking about this? It's never going to happen. And now it's on CNBC, Bloomberg. It's on every mainstream channel saying not only could it happen, but it just happened a couple days ago. That's crazy.
Right. If you can be so kind and just first click on page 6, the one below that, have a look at that. So these are the news clippings I just pulled this morning. So these are the news clippings that reference the Saudi not agreeing to re-sign the petrodollar contract. So these are news clippings anybody can pull up. There's a handful right there. This event went down on June 9th. So why this is important, if we can go back up one slide, because so you and I have been talking about this on our podcast for at least 2 years now already about the petrodollar contract. Here's my book right here. Okay. So I started working on this book in November of last year. Those who have my book can pull up page 96. This is page 96. And there it is right there. 96. 96 literally shows you the same slide. So we've been talking in reference to the petrodollar contract. In the book, I make a huge stink. I basically really focus on the petrodollar contract because this is how they control humanity. It's because of this contract right now. So the petrodollar contract, Saudis refuse to re-sign the petrodollar contract. So what that means is the US dollar is no longer backed by oil. I'm going to repeat that. The US dollar is no more backed by oil, as People were thinking it could happen, but the cycle was indicating it was going to happen, and it became official on June 9th. Relative to the articles that I'm basically on, they're all on page 6. So now there's no more petro in the US dollar. It's no longer oil. It's no longer the petrodollar. It's literally just a piece of paper. And the piece of paper is backed by faith and confidence of the people in office right now who are arguing, who are trying to hide a laptop, who are denying, everything that's been going on. It's just, this is the faith and confidence backing your Federal Reserve note right now. If that doesn't freak people out of the chaos going off in the United States with regards to the coming election, with regards to what you're watching going off in Washington, if this does not freak you out, I don't know what to say, because you've got to be asleep. So there's all this wild stuff going off in our world right now, and there's the faith and confidence. That's it. Go turn your TV on. There's your faith and confidence right now. Yeah, like this is who you've got. This is the faith and confidence that's left in the dollar, because there's no more petrol in it.
This is we published this yesterday, and to try and avoid the censors, I'm not going to say who's on the screen. Everyone can see it. That is not the same person in both of those photos. That the image on the right was taken yesterday from an event that allegedly the resident was at. That is not the same guy in the photo on the left. And so when you talk about faith and confidence, we don't even have faith and confidence about who this even is. I mean, and we don't have to get into conspiracy theories about what's going on. I don't know what's going on. I'm not here to talk about clones or any of that type of stuff. I don't go there. That's not my thing. But I do have eyes, and I do have a brain, and I can see. I mean, what do you think, Bo? That's strange.
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. It doesn't matter what's going on. I don't care what's going on. All I know what's going on is messed up. Okay. All I know what's going on is completely messed up. No matter whether you look at these screens that you're posting, no matter if you turn on, the news of what's going on in Washington and the meetings they're having about a laptop and about a gun, and no matter what you're watching, it's craziness. And this is what's left with regards to the United States, who is the faith and confidence that's left in the dollar. Get it? Okay. So there's no gold backing the dollar. There's no petro backing the dollar. So all that's left is faith and confidence, and turn on your TV. And if that makes you feel comfortable, what's going on with regards to coming election, and if literally you feel comfortable what's going on, you've got to be asleep. That's all I got to say, because there's no way that you can feel comfortable with what's going on in the world right now. And then now let's get into the biblical side of this. If you go to page 4.
And Bo, before we do that, just real quick to put a bow on this, I think sometimes it gets really complex for people in terms of, you talk about these big economic terms and petrodollar and all this stuff. It gets kind of like, oh, I'm having flashbacks to high school or college, and I don't understand any of these economic things. But we all know this. We all know that basic economics is the more demand there is for something, the more valuable that is, right? We all know that. And so when the Saudis are selling oil only in dollars, you have to go, whatever country you are in the world, you have to go get dollars first before you can get the oil. And everyone needs oil to run all their economies and their machines and everything else. So there has been massive, massive demand for the US dollar for the past 50 years. That ended 8 days ago on June 9th. And when there's suddenly no demand for something, we all know that then the value of that and the price goes way down. And so that's when we talk about a US dollar crash. And trust me, that's not something you want, because then all of a sudden the dollars that are in your pocket, when the value of those dollars crashes, you can not buy the same amount of things. You can buy a lot less because your dollars are worth less than they were beforehand.
Well, another way of looking at this, Noah, and that's actually a great point, because of high-speed computers, the dollar is not going to go down. The dollar is suddenly going to drop by probably 30%.
I just wanted to lay that out there for everybody. This is something that is not just a college economics discussion. This is going to affect everybody's daily life really soon. All right, back to you, Bo.
Well, and I want to expand upon what you said, because that was a great point, what you brought up. See, the way this goes down, and also because of high-speed computers, once the news is out, it's going to be a sudden event. So you got to add the word sudden to it. And I believe we're going to see a sudden devaluation of the US dollar by probably about 30% overnight. So that's slide 24. So suddenly, overnight, the US dollar will devalue by roughly 30%. Okay, so what does that mean because of high-speed computers? What does that mean? It means that nobody globally is going to want to accept a dollar as payment. So you won't be able to go to other countries and say, hey, can I buy this from you from your country? They're not going to accept it as payment. And number two is the US dollar, if you everything that's priced in the dollar suddenly loses 1/3 of its value overnight. So it's going to be a devastating financial event. But again, this collapse of the dollar is unfortunately necessary because the US financial system is turned into a fraud. See, I'm going to repeat that. The US financial system is no longer, backed by gold. It's no longer backed by oil. And all that's left is the fraud that's left within it is in the system. So you've got a complete and utter fraud. If you can actually show a graphic of that on page 9, again, we've had this in our slides as well for like 5 years, 3-4 years already, whatever it's been. But on the right side there, you see that big red vertical line. That's only to the year 2020. Okay. So in 1970, what you saw is the dollar, there was probably barely $1 billion. And look what's happened. So barely $1 billion in the 70s since Nixon took us off the gold standard. The money supply into the year 2020, it's called a hockey stick. It just goes straight vertical. And since then, they've made trillions upon trillions. So that graphic is even higher, like you can't even imagine, because since 2020 to now, man, they have made so many trillions of dollars. That thing, who knows how high that number is? But what I want people to understand is you call it supply and demand, right? So, hey, I feel wealthy because, even people listening, they might have a home, and someone listening to this podcast, hey, their home is worth $500,000. They feel, hey, that's a substantial amount of wealth they might have, right? But in the 70s, that $500,000 home that that person listening might have, let's say it's even $1 million, right? In the 70s, that home was worth between $30,000 and $50,000. You see, so your home, based on 1970 prices, is probably worth $30,000 to $20,000 because it's 50 years old. But because of the money printing, it might be worth $500,000 to $1 million today. It's not more valuable. There's just more money chasing that price of the home. So people need to understand this financial system is a fraud. That's why it says, making money. Printing money is making money. These globalists have used this money. It's gone around the world. We've seen pallets of money being shipped globally during every administration that's ever been out there. And they just use it to buy and pay off anybody and everything. And so now we're at a moment in time. Now we're at a biblical moment in time. And so go back to page 4. If you can click on that, let's look at the...
Bo, before we leave this one real quick, I just looked it up. Your chart, I think you said you did it in 2020, and it's just topping 23 trillion. I just looked it up. It's 34, almost 35 trillion today. So imagine going up 10 more levels on this chart. That's where we're at today. Talk about a hockey stick. And then I love what you have in here. And again, I want to encourage people to get these slides. Go ahead and click the link below. Get a copy for yourself. But I love this little box Bo put up here at the top of this slide 9.
Oh yeah, that was a new one. It's my time is money. So, which is true. Time is money.
That is so cool. We think that, when you go from $1 million to $1 billion and then from $1 billion to $1 trillion, it's all roughly the same. It's just, going up another notch, but it's just drastically different. So Bo illustrates it based on time. So if you think of 1 million seconds, that's 12 days, but 1 billion seconds, it's not like 24 days or, 100 days. It's 31 years. And then when you go from billion to trillion, you're in 31,000 years. So it's the escalation from million to billion to trillion is almost hard to comprehend. And that's why, people talk about millionaire, being a millionaire. The difference from being a millionaire to being a billionaire is drastic. And then when you go from billion to trillion, it's almost hard for our brains to comprehend it. But I love that. I'm going to save that, Bo. I'm going to keep this because that is such a great graphic you have on.
Well, there. And then imagine removing the word days and put dollars.
Yes.
Okay, so if you want to count to 1 million, it would take you 12 days. In terms of dollars, that'd be $12. So which means that you'd be at $11 billion. So if you just held on to $12 in the 70s, it'd be worth $11 billion today based on the money supply.
Crazy. Well,
so as wild as these numbers, this is just the math behind the numbers. What I'm showing you is this math is called a fraud. The math is a fraud because it's not backed by anything honest. It's not backed by gold and silver. Now it's not even backed by petro. And again, that still wasn't great because that was God's money is an honest money system. The petrodollar contract wasn't an honest money system. It was at least backed by something. Now it's not even backed by that. So the dollar's left hanging. It's left hanging. It's a piece of paper with zero, in my opinion, there's zero faith and confidence in the United States globally right now, based on the people running the show. Mm-hmm. You can leave it at that.
Yes, absolutely.
And so looking at the timing of these events, so on page 4, let's look at how this is playing out. So on page 4, what you've got is the 50-year contract ended to the exact day on June 9th. And so we want to look, so we can click on page 8 again here, Noah. But on page 8, you'll see the importance of that, because on page 8, you go to 1967, the Six-Day War. Please listen to the details of how this is playing out. The Six-Day War ends on June 9th, 10th. The sixth day, depending on time zones. June 9th, 10th. 7 years later, remember, 7 is very important biblically in terms of timing. 7 years later, to the exact day, Kissinger and the Saudis signed the petrodollar on June 9th. They signed the petrodollar contract to the exact day. 50 years forward to the exact day. Now you can go ahead and click back to page 4. 50 years later to the exact day is right there. June 9th, 2024. And boom, the petrodollar contract is no more. 2 days later, you have Russian warships and a sub or subs, whatever it was, appears and is now in Cuba, just off the East Coast, sitting in international waters with, if they shoot a missile or anything, you're probably talking 5 to 10 minutes for it to get to the United States. Okay. So none of this is this. So now we're literally seeing these events go down. And if you go up, remember, look at that slide. So the sunset of the 11th of June into the 12th. So the 12th was officially the full day of Pentecost, and 11th through 12th is Pentecost. Click on page 7. Look what happened. The warships, and a nuclear sub.
I remember, last week, right.
On Pentecost.
Yep.
So not only was it it wasn't a random event, it was 2 days after the petrodollar contract fell apart. They refused to re-sign it. 2 days later, on Pentecost, I'm going to repeat that. 2 days later on Pentecost, there's a Russian warship and nuclear sub just off the East Coast. This is not a coincidence. So back to the start of this whole presentation and interview. Why would Russia have military hardware just off the East Coast? It goes back to the slide we just showed. They are now reinforcing the military agreement they signed on August 24th, 2021 with Saudi Arabia, saying, don't you dare think you're going to do something to force the Saudis to re-sign that contract.
Wow. So where does that take us then, Bo? I mean, what's next?
There's two things that God has revealed, specifically in reference to the world we live in and the time we live in. Okay. And so you can maybe leave it on that slide for a second there on page that you've got right there. That's a good slide. Leave on page 8. Page 8 is good. Yeah, we'll go there in a second. So we're living in biblical times. You have to understand there's two things that the United States was founded on. We are founded with a covenant. The founding fathers are on their knees. They dedicated the United States to God. So we, the United States, are a nation founded under God. Can't break that. Founding fathers can be dead, gone. God's, yes, God of yesterday, God of today, and God of tomorrow. So the covenant stands regardless of time.
Hey,
the
Bo,
covenant stands.
Real quick, interesting question for you on that. I see so much conflicting information on that, and I read comments from people, and sometimes you go back and forth on that. On the one hand, it seems like we absolutely were founded that way, dedicated by our founders. And then you also see some of this Freemasonry stuff that they were all into. How do you sort through all that in your head when you look at the founders and all the Freemasonry stuff?
That's a great point. I honestly don't have an answer for you. All I know is that the truth is the truth. And it doesn't, because remember, it's all, state of mind too. They could, someone could have been a Freemason, but at the same time too, they could have you come to Jesus moment and they can, turn from their wicked ways, right? So you don't know the state of everybody's mind at the moment things were going down, right? Or the moment things were happening. But I do know the prophets have spoken. I heard very clearly that the United States is a nation founded under God. So it doesn't matter how all the things at that time manifested and how it all played out, because no one really knows. But the bottom line is the United States has a covenant with God, and God basically has a covenant with the United States. And so to me, that's all that matters, not on how all the pieces fit together.
Yeah, no, that's good. I appreciate that. And that's kind of where I land too. We can't figure all this out on our own, but it does seem pretty clear that this country, you read the founding documents, the Constitution. I mean, these are things that are written and based very squarely in Judeo-Christian values. And I mean, it's just all over the Constitution.
And that's all that matters. I think people can try to dissect it too much. People can try to use a dissection to break apart or destroy the truth. But that's where evil comes into play, because evil always wants to put a question mark on everything, right? It's like you can say that the Red Sea, there's chariots at the bottom of the Red Sea, right? But if you can say, well, there might be chariots, then that puts a question mark on it. So maybe the story's true. Get it? Yeah. So evil is always I always say evil tries to always put a question mark on things, because you can state a truth, but as long as you put a question mark on it, then it might be a truth. And then that's where evil always operates. He always operates in the middle, trying to create confusion. And so rather than causing or being a part of any confusion, just the truth is a truth. The United States is a nation founded under God, period. And all the other pieces don't really matter, because the truth is the truth. And for that reason, in and of itself, we're going to see biblical things manifest. And the United States will soon, it's like when you're making a good cup of coffee, the cream rises to the top. The United States will rise to the very top and be the greatest nation in the world. I'm going to repeat that. Because of that covenant, the United States is soon to rise as the greatest nation in the world, because of that covenant, when God restores the covenant. So during end times. So it doesn't matter how all the pieces fit together, because that's trying to take events and trying to figure it out. But the problem is we all see through the glass dimly. So I might think I know something, but the problem is many prophets will get prophecies, but they're getting pieces. So everyone's getting pieces. You might read scripture, but even your interpretation of the scripture is still a piece of the puzzle. It's not like you can't go read Revelation and have a full interpretation the first go around. Like, people have been trying to figure this out for years, but Revelation specifically is a giant masterpiece portrait, but it's in pieces. And so we're trying to put pieces together. And as we get more and more into end times, or into end of days, we're going to see more and more revelation. So we're stepping into a moment in time where the United States, yes, it's a nation founded under God. That is the truth, period. And because of that covenant the founding fathers made and God has with the United States, we are soon to flip and go in the other direction. But evil's trying to grab the United States. But it's not going to work. And so I have this slide up for you to have you understand how all of this is not random, but it's actually perfect. And so if you go to 6 Day War, we talk about 7 years to the exact day, Kissinger, the petrodollar contract, 50 years to the exact day forward. This past last weekend was June 9th, and the Saudi refused to re-sign the petrol contract. But now let's go back 7 years to 2017. So for 2024, go backwards 7 years. It takes you to 2017. Well, if you use that Leviticus cycle, you go back 50 years, that takes you to 1967. So 1967, 50 years is 2017, and that's when we see the Revelation 12 sign happen. The Revelation 12 sign happened specifically, it's page 10. It happened on September 23rd, 2017. So these are things that literally happened in our lifetime. Now, it's interesting because if you add 7 years forward, from September 23rd. So no, let me ask you, September 23rd, 2017, add 7 years. That'll be September. People, please write this down. People listening, right? September 23rd, add 7 years to 2017 is 2024. September 23rd, 2024. Does something happen? I don't know. But I know it's historically important. It's mathematically important relative to biblical timing. And so why I say that is because the chart you're looking at there, the 1967 war comes to an end, Kissinger contract, and you got the 1974, you go 50 years to this year. So we're at a moment in time where something biblical is about to happen, and regardless of what evil's agenda and plan is, because it knows if you get the United States, you get the world. I'm going to repeat that. You grab the United States, you grab the world, and look what's going on right now, ever since the new guy's in office. Okay, so it's an interesting time point. But if you go to page 12, so let's add some more timing into this. If you look at the timing on this, we talk about covenant. So this is a biblical covenant. I believe this biblical covenant the founding fathers made will be restored this year. And here's what it's written above that. It says a covenant is a promise. A biblical covenant is an unconditional, permanent promise. And the promising parties must keep their promise, regardless of the other party's breach of their promise. So the people of the United States can breach the contract that we have with God. What's going on right now, people? Oh boy, if we breach the contract. Want to talk a breach of contract? Roe v. Wade. That's called breach of contract. by killing the Creator's creation, we breached the contract we had with God. Want to talk another breach of contract? God gave us an honest money system. Haggai 2:8, the silver and the gold are mine, saith the Lord. God gave us an honest money system. We breached the contract by Nixon taking us off the gold standard. And then furthermore, Kissinger created the petrodollar contract. So we, the United States, a nation founded under God, breached the biblical contract, the covenant we had with God in the 70s. 50 years later, you wonder why we're here. Seriously, 50 years later, you wonder why we're here right now. Let's continue. The 1776 Declaration of Independence was a biblical covenant, a promise by the founding fathers to God that all men are created equal. And what are they trying to do right now, right? Everything you're watching is they're trying to change that men are not created equal. No one's equal, right? So they're trying to remove that. And in return, so all men are created equal. And in return, God promised to the United States was to bless the United States and was born the greatest nation in the world. Did that not happen? Come on, people. Did that not happen? Everybody for years has wanted to move, migrate, get into and live in the United States, the greatest nation in the world. Everybody's wanted to live here. The promise was binding. However, January 20th, 21, we the people allowed our elections to be, we saw what happened there without getting too details. And we moved into, look who moved in. And God has thus removed his blessing. Specifically, it's been really wild for the past 4 years for a season. So a 4 years, a 3.5 is a season. So now let's look at the cycle of time here. I spent time with this to have people really understand that none of this is random, because if you read Daniel 12, verse 7, you can Google this, Daniel 12, verse 7. It says, it shall be for a time, times, and a half a time. A time is a year, times is 2 years, and a half a time is a half a year. So that's 3.5 years, or date-wise is 1,260 days. So from the inauguration of January 20th, 2021, it came into office, and it was not good. Let's leave it at that. It was not good. But it that came into office on the inauguration of 2021, it has 1,260 days. Okay. So it has, based on Daniel 12, that entity, the evil entity, it has 1,260 days. 1,260 days from the inauguration of January 20th, 2021 to the exact date is the 4th of July.
Wow. Well, wouldn't that be quite the day for something to happen? 2.5
weeks from now. Okay. So why I'm showing you this is because all of these things are perfectly mathematically timed. So again, I don't know what happens because I don't know. I'm calculating time. So I'm using time to have an understanding of what are the important dates. So that takes me to the slide on page 4. If you look at the slide on page 4, what you're seeing there is today Noah and I are doing a podcast on June 17, Monday. This Monday, today, is the 17th. This Thursday is the 20th. This Thursday, spring ends. And the next day, the first day of summer. What does that mean? I don't know. But I do know this 20th is the last day of spring. I've stated before that God, the creator of all things, historically, if you look at nature, right, animals birth their offspring in spring so that they have the summer to grow and get ready for the fall time. So and I've heard a prophetic voice that God's going to move upon the world in spring. So I don't know what to tell you, except there's 3 days left. That's all I can say. Okay. And then that leads us into the start of summer. But then that furthermore leads us into the slide that I have on page 21. And this is where it gets interesting, because I heard very clearly before I went on stage last week in Detroit for the Reawaken. I heard God, it basically at the time when God said, count 7 months from June 20th. Okay, so June 20th is the last day of spring, right? 7 months forward from the last day of spring, so from June 20th, 7 months to the exact day is January 20th, 2025, Inauguration Day. To the exact day.
And that's when we clean up all this mess.
Well, actually, that's when we have to start rebuilding the mess.
Yes.
right? So what, and the timing is indicating that all hell's about to break loose, because we're going to go, there's something militarily is about to happen. We're going to see the collapse of the dollar. It could start here in the next 3 days. It could start in June. Is likely going to be here by July based on the calendars. So all I know is we're at a moment in time where we're about to see a biblical financial event go down. And this starts the 7-month clock into the inauguration to the exact day. So all I know is the clock starts on June 20th. The clock starts on June 20th. Why I say that's important is because of the event of June 20th. June 20th, I believe something could happen regardless, but the date of June 20th into January 20th is 7 months to the exact day. But this is the fun part. Cut it in half. 3 months, 15 days. And there's a midway point. If you look on the left side there, that's September 23rd. Wait a second. Let's write that down. September 20. Didn't we write that down earlier? September 23rd.
I've already got it on my notes. Yep.
2017. So here, September 23rd, 2017.
Well,
7 years to the. So if you look on page 10, there it is. Page 10, September 23rd, 2017. 7 years to the exact mark is 2024. So now go to page 8 and let's use a 7-year window. There it is, 2017, Revelation 12 sign, 7 years to the exact day. This is craziness. 7 years to the exact day is September 23rd, 2024. So I don't know what to say, except this is incredible how all the pieces are coming together right now. And so we're all watching together to see how this plays out. But I do want to show you this video right here that I think you'll find interesting in reference to September 23rd.
I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see.
In all of these cataclysmic end times related movies, you see this very subliminal but very clear message of September 22nd, 23rd, and 24th.
Watch and see, for God says beginning in September, I will turn everything around, and my people shall see an intervention of a kind that they have never seen before.
Yes, that is so good.
So my people will see an intervention of a kind that they have never seen before. That's a prophetic word. September 23rd, mathematically, is exact halfway point between the last day of spring, June 20th, and the inauguration of January 20th, the exact middle to the exact day. And so how this plays out, we just got to sit back and fasten our seatbelts and be positioned, because the two things that of the 70s that messed everything up was Roe v. Wade and the financial system. So allowing the killing of the Creator's creation, so allowing the killing of the Roe v. Wade, and specifically turning away from God's money and turning to a financial system backed by not gold and silver, and then eventually going to the petrodollar. All of these two specific things are the critical things that have put us in this place where we're at right now. So because of what happened in the late 70s or early 70s, where we got what we got right now, and now we're stepping into a time based on the timelines I've shown you of the 7-year window and the 50-year window. So the 7-year window and the 50-year window, all are pointing to the year 2024 based on the reversals effect of Roe v. Wade and the reversal effect of the petrodollar contract. And so remember what happened, and we've talked about this because this is kind of what I think why we met years ago in 2020. We started doing a podcast was because of Ginsburg. Remember that?
Oh, yes.
And what happened with Ginsburg? Because there was some oil going to negative $38 a barrel. It stated scripturally that that the water kept rising for 150 days, and that will be the Noah cycle. And so At 150 days, I said, I think what, September 18th, I think it was, 2020. And what happened on that day? Ginsburg died, right?
Oh, yes.
And then what happened shortly thereafter, after the death of Ginsburg? What was overturned?
Yeah, well, you got Coney Barrett in there, and then you had Roe versus Wade overturned.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So now this is the exact similarity to that event. So the death of Ginsburg is now the refusal to re-sign the petrodollar contract. Okay. The refusal to re-sign the petrodollar contract is suddenly going to lead to the collapse of the world financial system. So this is where we're at. So it's an identical to the two things. Before Roe v. Wade could be overturned, you had to have the death of Ginsburg. Before the dollar can collapse, you had to have the Saudis refuse to sign the petrodollar contract.
Right.
So the stage is set. And that's a great slide to be on right there. The stage is now set for a birth. And so what do we say? What was birth 7 years ago on September 23rd? A child. Go read Revelation 12 sign. It happened on September 23rd. And if you read right there, you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. This is Matthew 24. You'll hear of wars, rumors of wars, but see to it that you are not alarmed. Such things must happen, but the end is still to come. It's years in the future still. All of these things are the beginnings of birth pains. So we are watching a birth of God's kingdom here on earth. The birth of God's kingdom is the takedown of Babylon, the fall of Babylon. Babylon was built with a Federal Reserve note. So Babylon falls, God's kingdom is birthed, 45 returns to rebuild. So the math is indicating that by January 20th, it could happen in September, October. I don't know. God didn't tell me. I don't know when God has got, 45 to step back in. But his job is to rebuild a collapsed system. So by January 20th of next year, the system will have collapsed. So we will need him. The world will need him to be in office to rebuild. But when he comes to office, he doesn't get the glory. God does. God gets the glory because of the chaos that happened. People are going to know it wasn't man who did this. Oh, no. We're going to see miracles, signs, wonders. We will know that a miracle happened. And because of the miracle, God intervened, like at the Red Sea. Okay. I don't care what happened at the Red Sea. Moses didn't get the glory. Okay. Moses was there doing God's will. Trump is there doing God's will. But Moses did not get the glory at the Red Sea. Everybody knew. Everybody knew God parted that sea. And so we're about to see biblical intervention. Babylon falls. With its death is the dollar, Federal Reserve note. You're going to see, and this is where it takes us into cryptocurrencies. Okay.
I wanted to ask you, Bo. I mean, so I think you've laid out a really clear timeline. There's not much time left at all. Even through January, but things could happen a lot faster. You've got a September date in there. You've got July 4th. So where does that leave us in terms of, let's maybe do gold and silver first. They're just sitting at all-time highs. You told us a lot last time, but for anybody that missed that, kind of what you see for gold and silver, and then let's wrap up talking about cryptocurrency.
Well, gold and silver, when this event goes down, they've manipulated it forever. Their goal is to keep precious metals low and the dollar high. Because the dollar, as long as it has value up here, they can keep playing the game. They can keep the control systems in place. When God intervenes, financial scales will flip and the dollar will collapse. Gold and silver will explode in price. It might be a day, it might be a week, but in a very short window of time. So I'm going to say in a very short, small window of time, whether it's a day or a few days, I believe that you're going to see all the above ground silver disappear. It's just going to be gone. And this could actually still start here June or July, because remember, it starts with a collapse of the dollar, which means that starts with an explosion of precious metals. So when precious metals explode, because they're precious, people are just going to buy them up, and it's like that, and it's gone, and it's gone. And that's how I believe this will play out. All the precious metals, specifically silver, will just be gone, and that will fill the prophetic voice that Kent Christmas had a couple of years ago. He says, for those who are sitting on the fence to see which side wins, are going to miss out on what's about to happen. Does that make sense? So if you're sitting on the fence to see which side wins, you've already chosen, because the fence is owned by Satan. You see, you're either on the side of, I know how this is going to play out, God wins, But if you're sitting on the fence to see which side wins, I think Arthur Pawlowski's, I love him. He's funny, but his word was very simple. Satan owns the fence. It's true. If you're sitting on the fence, Satan owns it, you're going to miss out. And so that leads us into cryptocurrencies as well.
Well, you said very short window of time, but and I think you mentioned it last time we talked, but are you still seeing the same kind of numbers? I mean, we break over 32 in silver. What do you think it can do quickly?
Well, I've stated very clear. They've got the COMEX has stops. I think they're 3 to 5 minute stops every $3 on silver, and I think they're 4 stops or 5. I think it's 4 in a row. So you'd see silver go $3 every 3 to 5 minutes, and that would take it $12 after 4 stops. So that may be like say 20 to 30 minutes. It moved $12, and then I believe the computers would reverse their positions after they get out of their shorts best they can, and then the computers go net long, and you can see in a matter of a few minutes, silver can go $20 to $30. And so I've got resistance points for silver at around $65 to $70. That could happen as quickly as a single day. So It could break 30, go to 60 to 70 in a single day. And this is when it sells out. The dealers shut their doors. It's just everything's pandemonium and chaos because the dollar just got dethroned as a world reserve currency. I'm just trying to put pieces together, but it's going to be related to a financial event. And the explosion of silver is going to lead to the collapse of the banking institutions. You can use the word biblical. It's a biblical financial event, but why would it be biblical? Well, because when you look at the events that we're literally talking about, we're talking about biblical events, and that event specifically, page 2. What we're waiting for is page 2. It's the third seal. What is it? It's the greatest financial event in human history, but it's global. See, because if this is a seal, it's a global event. It's a global phenomenon. So it's a worldwide financial event, and it's based on the petrodollar, which is no more. So that's what we're seeing, and then that layers us into the cryptocurrencies because the collapse of this will be the collapse of the SWIFT system. So those who don't know what the SWIFT system is, but basically in a nutshell, if I'm sitting here in California and I want to send a wire to Noah, what state are you in, Noah?
Iowa.
So I want to send Noah a wire. I'd go to the bank or I'd go online. I'd click a few buttons or go to the bank, and I would send Noah a wire if the bank approves it.
Yes.
No one would get the wire, right? But that's the Fed wire system. Just like if Noah wanted to click a button or send a wire to Russia, he could do it, but he's not allowed to do it because they've shut down, the globalists shut down the SWIFT system into Russia. Get it? So they use this SWIFT system to control the movement of funds globally. Now, if suddenly the dollar's dethroned, the Russia, China, Brazil, so the BRICS already have a new system in place, which is outside, or meaning it's a secondary system. So if you maybe want to go to full screen here, for example, I just want to give the viewers a visual. If my 2 hands here, one on the left, this will say this hand here is the SWIFT system. So we're sending wires, money this way. The second system is the BRICS system. They have nothing to do with one another.
Yep.
They have nothing to do with one another. So if the people of the world decided that they don't want to use a Federal Reserve note, this system just dies.
It's exactly right.
This one.
We've reported on this. Yep.
They have this one to use to send and transact with. But an interesting thing happens. There's another system that's out right now. Noah, what's the other system? Blockchain.
Yes, right.
So blockchain's there. So the same blockchain, which is fully functioning right now, you can click a button and no middleman, which is even better than the SWIFT system, send wires vertically to anybody you want globally as long as they got a phone or a computer. So we want to go back to the slides, but that is what we got. So we got 3 systems right now. We got the Fed wire system, we got the BRICS wire system, and we got blockchain. And that's how people can transact globally using those 3. Right now, no one's really allowed to use to any large degree the BRICS system because it's the Fed would go, globalists wouldn't want it. But when the BRICS attacked Brazil, Russia, India, China attack the dollar, it will be dethroned as a world reserve currency. No one globally in 24 hours is going to choose to use it anymore. Mm-hmm. And then you're left with 2. You're left with a BRICS system and blockchain. And so gold and silver become a store of wealth, because they're just going to keep going up in price. So they become a store of wealth, but blockchain will be used for transactions. So I hope that gives a very big picture perspective on this. So why would you want to be a part of blockchain? Because the Federal Reserve System that we've talked about here for the past hour, the Fed wire system, the SWIFT system, is about to have a very bad day. Mm-hmm. And it will not be able to recover from that bad day. And then every way we transact will change forever from that day onwards. So we're in biblical times. The day it happens, I don't know, but I know we are so close. We could literally be within 3 days. We could be within 3 days into the 20th of June. Or if not, we got another huge date, 4th of July. Huge date. That's 1,260 days of it will be. And what was from the inauguration of January 20th, 2021. So we got the 4th of July. Another huge day. So between that takes us into, 4th of July. Right after that, we're in July. And so I don't know, but I know that I just think I believe we have days left before things go down here, because it has to start here. And I believe it starts extremely soon. Everything I'm looking at looks like it's starting extremely soon. And that leads us into Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. When gold and silver suddenly go through the numbers that I'm describing, what happens is it becomes all sold out. So if gold and silver, specifically silver, is sold out, and if 1 or 2 billionaires step up, but all the above ground precious metals are gone.
Mm-hmm.
So what's left to buy, Noah?
Yeah, crypto.
There you go.
Yeah, and
that's what's left to buy.
Well, and speaking of, what's left to buy, there is not even close to enough Bitcoin left on the open market for every millionaire in the world to even get one Bitcoin. So what do you think happens at that point when they all decide they want to have some? And these millionaires, they usually like to get what they want, and they usually probably want at least one whole Bitcoin. What happens when that's not physically, mathematically possible? We talked about supply and demand and earlier in this interview, and when demand is overwhelming, price just goes crazy. So, look, I can't give personalized financial advice, neither can Bo, but the writing sure seems to be on the wall that you're just going to have an explosive event here at some point. And then, Bo, I assume too, maybe we talk about this just a little bit, but when maybe you can't get Bitcoin because it's just priced out of the market, or it's just not available because there's only 21 million of them, and many have been lost, or keys have been lost and all that type of stuff. So there's even less than 21 million. So when you can't get those, or you have to get a fraction of those, then you start looking at some of these other coins that we have on the screen here. And that's why Bo covers these other ones too. Ethereum, XRP. I talk a lot about XRP. And by the way, they're launching their own stablecoin in 2024, right in line with Bo's timeline. It's called the RLUSD. They pronounce it Real USD. That's very interesting. That's coming online right away. So as you start to look at Bitcoin and that feels too expensive, then you look at some of these other ones. And Bo has a great report on all these. If you want to get Bo's newsletter, got it on the screen right now. Bo always says, and I always like to echo that, you certainly don't have to get this. This is the only thing that Bo puts out that's a paid service of his. Everything else, he comes on here and does these interviews for free. We don't pay Bo to be here. He just comes on and chats with us, and he creates these slides for free and gives them out. The link is free below this video. But if you want more information on the charts and when Bo sees some really big moves coming up or down, because there's going to be some of both coming up, it's going to be wild volatility. You can go to his newsletter. You go to gold2024cast.com. It's on the screen right there. And then make sure, though, when you do that, take advantage of the deal he's got on the screen. He's going to give you, if you're watching this interview, he's going to give you 50% off from what it normally costs. And so to do that, as you're checking out, find the box that says use a code or use a promo code, type in WLT49. That's going to give you that 50% discount. And you can grab that. The updates are great. I've been getting them for years. I always love it when a new one pops into my inbox. But if that's for you, that's great. I know we've got a lot of people that get that. But if you just want to get these free interviews, that's totally fine too. But Bo, I really appreciate seeing your analysis in there and seeing what's coming next. It gives me some peace of mind.
Yeah. Just to let you know, if you go back yesterday, the 16th Saturday, I put out an update. I'm sure you've looked at it, but in that update, there's about a dozen coins that I really prefer that I hold. And in those dozen coins, we put price projections into the future for them as well. So all the coins we follow are all itemized with charts and projections into the years forward. So it's a pretty substantial update.
Yeah, that's if you sign up for Bo's newsletter, you get access to all the historical ones. So don't feel like you missed that. You will get all future ones, of course, but you will also get access to the archives. You can go in there and see that. That was, some of those updates are bigger, some are smaller. That was definitely a big one. It's fun to kind of see where he thinks the ranges are for the future, because it's just wild to kind of imagine some of those. So you can definitely see that in there. That's gold2024cast.com. Bo, I had a question come in from somebody from our last show. Danny asked me, and so I said, you know what, Bo's coming on. I'll ask him live on the air. But he says, can you ask Bo, please, in his newsletter, since he recently talks a lot about the two different calendars in the interviews, which calendar is he looking at when he does the dates in his newsletter? And I thought that was a great question. Maybe if you want to speak to that a little bit.
No, the newsletter just gives you date projections forward based on history. So it's just a calendar that we're using right now. That's just basically based on the Gregorian calendar we're using. So it doesn't matter what dates you're using. The calendar is the calendar. The dates are all that matters. So I don't know if that answers your question. But
no, I think that's good. So Danny, it's pretty straightforward. You don't have to do any complex analysis between the two calendars. When Bo puts out his newsletter, it's just the calendar that you and I are all familiar with using every day.
Yeah, just like I know reports I've been stating, there is, March, because middle of March was supposed to be a top in Bitcoin, but I wrote that in December of last year. Yeah, that's probably the best way to answer this question was in my December report of last year, I said we expect Bitcoin to make a new all-time high in March, or I think right around the 11th, I think it was, of 2024. And that was 11th of 2024. And you can go back and you'll see Bitcoin topped around there. And it's been, in a fighting match to break that 70 range ever since. But, the date stated in December of last year, the 11th, I think it was, of March, was 11th of March of our calendar that we're using.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Bo, we always want to be respectful of the people that do pay for your newsletter service. There's a ton of detail in there, and we, of course, don't want to release all that for free because that is a higher level of service that you provide. But anything you can say in this interview, I'll just leave it open to you. I don't want to say anything, but obviously I do read your reports, and I kind of know, but I want to leave it open to you. I think you've been pretty open in this interview about, hey, watch out. There's, when the US dollar crashes and the SWIFT system crashes, gold, silver, and crypto go up. But any kind of general big picture little nuggets you can give us here in this interview for where you see Bitcoin going in terms of the rest of this year or the next month or price targets, anything like that. What can you tell people?
Well, again, price targets are difficult. Cycle timing is kind of what I do. So all I know is that we're waiting for a very, very, very large, you can use the word even biblical event that starts to manifest here. And the biblical event is obviously tying in with the collapse of the dollar and the BRICS and Russia. So we're waiting for this event to go down. I think we're extremely close to this going down. When this event happens, all I know is I've got resistance points. It's in the chart that I actually just did this weekend for Bitcoin. And the next resistance point, it's in the update, but the next resistance point in near term is above $100,000. And I give a time point and a number for that as well, too, where we could see resistance come in for Bitcoin. Once it breaks that resistance point, we could literally see Bitcoin go to excessively high numbers into year end, as long as that final resistance point is breached and broken. I do believe it's going to break. So I'm not changing my tune. We're still looking for over 100, but there's a resistance point above 100,000. If that key number is broken, which is in the report, then we're literally can go to wild numbers into later this year.
Awesome. Well, you guys, everybody got a major freebie there. That's a big one. So thank you, Bo. If you want to get more details like that into much more detail, it really is fun. I usually just kind of close my door and have fun reading through Bo's report when it comes in and try and take in all the details. So if you want to get that, you go to gold2020forecast.com. And then be sure to get the discount. Don't pay full price. Get the 50% discount. Type in WLT49. That's the discount Bo gives for watching this podcast here. So that's very cool. One last thing, Bo, because I know how much this is helping people. I hear from it every single time, is another service that you have. Actually, I think started by your son, and then you've helped him out a bit too. But really cool deal. It's called the Easy Crypto School. And if you're just maybe your head swimming and you don't quite know. You're like, I really would like to understand Bitcoin. It confuses me, or I'm worried I'm going to make a mistake, or I'm going to get hacked, or I'm going to lose money because I'm going to do something wrong, or I'm worried that I'm going to run into a scam or something. If you are at all having trouble with understanding how to do this, and it's a whole new world. It's a brave new world. So if that's you, but you want to learn about it, then you need the Easy Crypto School. That's why Bo put it together. He wants to keep people safe. We don't want people making mistakes out there. We want them to know what the safe platforms are, safe providers, safe crypto brokerages, safe wallets. How do you store crypto? You have to have a wallet. What does that mean? How does that work? Bo goes through all of it in the school. And I know a lot of people have really found that very helpful. So
let me just add this. So all the steps that I have learned from the moment you want to get crypto, how you get involved, I basically mapped it out. I created like a 7-step pathway on how to do all this and things that happen along the way. But basically it makes it very simple to know how to start and then how to ultimately store it safely, because that's the essence of all this. So if you're storing it safely, you're sleeping great at night, because you don't want to be involved in cryptocurrencies, but having your coins sitting in the wrong place. So it's all the steps to ultimately getting to a point where you can sleep great at night because you know you did everything correctly. So that's important to understand. With regards to cryptocurrencies, you just got to know that whether you like it or not, the world shortly and soon is going to migrate and start using this as transactional instruments globally. So it's coming. Whether you like it or not, it's coming. And if you want to get involved sooner rather than later, we've got all the steps laid out here for people so that, again, you don't make mistakes, because mistakes in crypto can be very expensive.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. Well, Bo, we've kept you on longer than we usually go, but there's just so much to talk about. Really great stuff today. Let me put you back full screen here. And I always like to give you the last word, because people want to hear from you, not from me. So tell me, you've told us a lot, but what do you want to leave us with until we talk next?
I think everything we've talked about over these past 2, 3, 4 years, we're at a point now where something has to happen. Something's about to break. And it's not going to be God's plan. It's their plan. So we're going to see a break in the financial system, which leads to historic financial changes this year. And I hope people have listened. You can't stop what's coming. You can't stop what's coming. It's coming. And we have been talking about this for 3 years. To the viewers, Noah, we've been talking about this, and now it's right there. It's at our doorstep. Not only that, you've got Saudis refusing to re-sign the petrol contract, and at our doorstep on the East Coast, just out in our international waters, just this far away, we've got Russian warships and subs. So I don't care what they're telling you about it. There's stuff going on that's right in front of our eyes, and this is a battle for souls, and it's also about free will. So you and I can talk and talk and talk, but there are people that refuse they can hear, but they don't listen. And so I hope people have, go back, listen to this podcast again, look into the math and how perfect all of this is coming together. And it's happening. You can't stop what's coming. The US dollar will be dethroned as a world reserve currency this year. I believe we're days away, as middle of June, June's ending, as spring's ending, summer begins, as July's here. Something magnificent and something horrific at the same time is about to, it's a double-edged sword. Something wild financially is about to manifest, and that starts the 7-month clock into January. So I hope people have listened. I hope they're prepared. I hope they have some food and water. Most importantly, if you know Jesus, there's nothing to fear. And if you know Jesus, you probably, hopefully, were able to own or purchase some precious metals, hopefully hold some cryptocurrencies, because we're about to see a flipping of the financial scales on a global level.
Our guest today has been Bo Polny. Bo, thank you for coming back with us. It's been wonderful. So much. My head is spinning a little bit. I got a page full of notes, and this has been wonderful. This is the time that we've been waiting for. We've been talking about, you and I, for 3 or 4 years now, and you can just feel it. We're finally almost there. So really look forward to having you back on soon, talking about some of these big things breaking open, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Bo.
Hi, this is Bo Polny, and I'm here to give you a brief update on the release of my book. The first run of the book sold out, but if you're one of those who acted quickly and purchased the book before April 28th, you should have by now received the copy of your book. The good news is a second larger order has just been received from the printers, and orders placed after April 28th are now being filled and shipped as I speak. If you are interested in getting your own copy of the book and have not done so yet, you may want to act quickly, as Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart have just purchased 2/3 of this second shipment. I want to say this. It was a true joy seeing many of my loyal viewers and having the opportunity to sign their books this past weekend in Detroit at the Reawaken America Tour. I want to thank all of you. And for those who are hearing about this book for the first time, it is a prophetic understanding of God's perfect timing from creation to his return. This book is explosive. It's the first book I've ever written and will explain and illustrate with beautiful color graphics of God's timing of events into the end of the age, the end of days. After reading it, you'll want to keep this beautiful book on your coffee table and share it with all your friends and family. This book is going to open your eyes to present-day events and how they are occurring with mathematical perfection as they directly fulfill events prophesied in the book of Revelation over 2,000 years ago. God speaks through his written word. God speaks through his servants, the prophets. And yes, God speaks through numbers. If you want to see how truly perfect his timing is and the specific calculations he has revealed about our future into the end of the age, this book has all the incredible details. Here are a couple of comments we just received today from those who have already completed reading the book. I doubt there's a book like this anywhere in the world. It illustrates God's perfect timing calculations from creation to the book of Revelation, including the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and the 7 seals of Revelation, the great American eclipse, which we just experienced, the coming great Egyptian eclipses, the coming aliens. Yes, we do speak about aliens in this book. The rise of the Antichrist and the mark of the beast is discussed in this book and timing for it, including the rapture, and all the way to the likely timing of Christ's return and much, much more. The mathematical calculations are beyond any human probabilities, clearly illustrating that the end of days was written by the hand of God from the beginning. It has a lot of surprises and will open your eyes as to how great our God is. I believe it's going to blow your mind and get you excited and prepared for the times ahead. It'll change the way you look at recent events in the world, and it'll give you the power and understanding of how long we really do have into the end of days and how all things are working for good. That's why after reading this book, you will begin to see how Revelation, like the Bible, is the good news as all things are manifesting in his perfect timing. If you want a copy of the book, there's a link below this video, and copies of the book are now available. The book will be available in stores and Amazon beginning June 30th. If you order your book through our website, gold2020forecast.com, be sure to enter the code 777 at checkout. And as a loyal follower, you will immediately receive a 30% discount on the book. Again, my name is Bo Polny. I love you. Jesus loves you. And I know you will love this book. Thank you, and God bless.